Before we start off with today's video, if you guys would like to join the Discord server, link will be in the description below and will also be in that pinned comment. If it has been more than 7 days, please use the latest video, as that's one where the links will be working. And of course, I would love to have you on this channel as well, so make sure to subscribe with that bell on so you don't miss any of the videos and the shorts and the community section posts, which are every day. But other than that, let's get right into today's video. What's up guys, welcome back. This is the Up exclamation mark.
Why are you in that VW?
It's the Up exclamation mark.
And what it is Volkswagen's small little city car that replaced the Fox, and the Fox replaced the Lupo. But anyway, we're just gonna review the car, see how it fares, and basically that's it really. I mean, there's not much else to say besides the fact what I've just said. So let's get into it. So when it comes to the outside, so this is the pre-facelift. Now it's good for what it is. I mean, it's a basic front, kind of. So you've got a humongous Volkswagen grille badge for starter, but then you've got lots of little bits of grille. So obviously an engine does need that, but it's not one big lump. It's just little bits everywhere, and so it is quite minimalist, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. It's what it is. Now on the facelift it was changed slightly, so the black surrounds are now slightly different, and the grills are a bit more. There's actually a lot more grill this time. Well, the sizes have changed anyway, and this one is not the GTI, but it does look more GTI-ish, and as we know, there is a Up GTI. I think the facelift looks better, but both are decent for what they are. The side profile, well, there was a 3 and a 5-door version. So this is the 3-door one, and it's a boxy shape, yes. And then as a comparison, here is the 5-door. Personally, I prefer the 5-door, but I prefer 5-door for a lot of cars these days, like, the older Yaris's and the older Corolla. I think 5-doors do look a bit better than 3-doors. So that's just my personal thing, but frankly, they're both fine, and it's completely up to you on what you want. The rear on the pre-facelift, again, it wasn't much. It was pretty much as basic as it needed to be. So all you got was lights, a glass boot looking thing, and a bumper, and that's it. There's literally no other accessories to it, which is fine. It doesn't need to be all the hoo-ha. And then the facelift, obviously it did change, so the lights have changed, and the bumper was a bit more aggressive, and there was a bit more to it, which I prefer, but both are completely fine. When it comes to the inside, so on the pre-facelift it looked like this. So it's minimalist to an extent, so there's no fancy gubbins going on. So as you can see, you've got the radio controls and the climate controls, which are actually the opposite way this time. Normally the climate is at the bottom and the radio is on the top, but it's swapped. But it doesn't really matter because they're literally right on top of each other. So it's like using the same thing, it's just slight height difference, that's all it is. And then you've got a little, I wouldn't call it a sat-nav screen, an infotainment screen that you just pop onto there. I don't think every version got that, or every version was different in fact that it would change sizes, but you would get that and it would tell you information about the car. On the facelift, the radio bit had changed slightly, and instead of having a screen, you use your phone, you plug it in and you have some app and it tells you all the figures you need about the car. When it comes to the performance, so it only came with a 1 litre inline 3-cylinder petrol. Now we are ignoring the GTI version for this, of course. So it came in 60, this is just give or take by the way, because it is rounded up being brake horsepower, 60, 65, 75, 73-ish, and 88, 90 horsepower brake horsepower, as you can see on the screen. And I've done a funny little pattern on it just because. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to do all 4, I'm going to do 3. I'm not going to bother with the basic one because I feel like the basic one and the next one, 64, there's only 5 horsepower between them, so I feel like there's no point in doing them. But at least with the others, there's at least like, 10 horsepower plus more. So I'm not going to do the basic one. So when it comes to the 64 horsepower one, it had 67 pound-feet of torque, and the engine I've gone through, but this one is naturally aspirated. It is front wheel drive and it weighs 929 kilograms, so under a ton. Obviously they would change slightly depending on trim, so this is just a rough figure. Gearbox was a 5-speed manual. It was 5-speed manual across the board and 5-speed automatic across the board if you got an automatic, excluding the GTI, which was 6 speeds. So 0 to 60 is 15.1 seconds and the top speed is 101 miles an hour. So this one and the 60 horsepower one are not really for motorway driving, because obviously they don't have a lot of power and their top speed is, frankly, there is no top speed to it really. So on the motorway it would struggle. So if you are going to do motorway driving, then I wouldn't get one of the lower powered versions. They just wouldn't be able to do it successfully. But again, it's completely up to you what you want and it's your needs. So if you know you're going to go on a motorway, you wouldn't pick this. But if you know you never, then you'd pick it. Then came the 73 horsepower one, again naturally aspirated, but it got a bit more torque at 70 pound-feet. Front wheel drive, and the weight was 929 kilograms again, but it would change to 940 with an automatic. So 5-speed manual and 5-speed automatic. 0 to 60 was 13 seconds flat for the manual, but 14.4 for the automatic. Then top speed was 106 for the manual. I've read that it's 107 for the automatic, but it's pretty much the same thing, isn't it, at this point? So this one is a little bit better for motorway driving if you do a mix. But the most powerful version that isn't the GTI is this one, same engine but with a turbo on it. Now I believe this one was only for the facelift, so if you wanted a turbo version with the most power, you would have to get a facelift version. So it had 88 horsepower and 118 pound-feet of torque, and it was front wheel drive. It weighed around 1,002 kilograms, so thereabouts around a ton, but again it would change depending on trims. Gearbox was a 5-speed manual. 0 to 60 was 9.6 seconds and the top speed was 115 miles an hour. So you can kind of think about it as a slightly less expensive up GTI. When it comes to practicality, the boot was 251 litres big, and for this class of car it is a very good size. Obviously, being a very small car, obviously you're not going to expect the biggest boot ever, but for, like I said, this class of car, it's very good. It beats cars like the Igo, and I think the i10 or the Kia Picanto, something like that, had like 1 litre more, so it is on par with that. So it is a very good usable boot, especially it's a nice square big opening boot. When it comes to rear seats, so yes, it is a very small car, so obviously taking passengers isn't your biggest priority. But let's talk about the 5-door. So legroom was actually decent for this class of car, and so was the headroom. Now for this class of car, there isn't really a great, because it's a small class of car. I mean, very rarely you're going to be able to take the tallest of people and be tall yourself as a driver successfully. But for what it is, it's completely fine. People who are 6 foot and over, they can sit in the back of this car for, a small amount of time and they should be fine. Unfortunately, with the 3-door, obviously because it is shorter, legroom would be a bit more of a squeeze, so that you can kind of consider that a slight con. But then again, if you know you're going to take passengers, you obviously want the 5-door. But if you know you're not, you're going to get the 3-door. So it's completely up to you. But either way, it was somewhat good for this class of car when it comes to rear seat space. When it comes to the handling and the comfort, so let's start with the comfort. So obviously this car is, it's, how do I put this? A, it's not the GTI version, and B, it's not exactly a Subaru. So obviously comfort is a priority, and frankly it was very comfortable indeed. There were certain bumps that would jolt it around a bit, but that's frankly normal, and frankly that doesn't happen a lot, so it doesn't matter. It's a comfortable car either way. And the handling itself, well, the chassis was actually really good. You got plenty of grip. It was very light as well. The wheels were pretty much at each corner, and the steering had enough feel, and it was direct enough as well. So it was decent through the B roads. It'd be pretty fun, especially considering how light and small this car is. It's like driving a go-kart. It's not driving a go-kart, but you get the point. It's like it, you know, it's similar in certain ways. So even though it's not designed to handle, I mean, it's not really your priority, it's just a small city car, but it would be very good through the corners. Obviously there was some body lean because of the soft suspension, but frankly that was just when you pushed it to its absolute limits, and frankly you're not going to do that much, so frankly it doesn't matter. Is there anything else worth noting? Yes, two things. So you can get it as this, which is the cross up. Now basically all it is, it's slightly jacked up and it's got, you know, the black bumpers. I don't know what, you can't remember the name unfortunately, but it's a slightly off-roady version, if you want to call it like that. And then of course the car is of course part of triplets. So you obviously got the Up, but then you got the Skoda Citigo and you got the Seat Me. So obviously you had all those three to choose from, and of course all of those had the same chassis, engines, pretty much the same body with slightly bumpers, and built in the same country and factory and all of that. So really it's completely up to you what you want, but it is part of triplets, being a Volkswagen car and Volkswagen Group. So it had decent exterior looks and the interior was nicely laid out as well. The handling was good for what it was, and there was good comfort. The legroom for the 5-door was actually pretty decent for this class of car as well, and the headroom was also pretty decent as well. Obviously it would be squeezed because it is a small car, but it was still decent for its class and so people can be in there for a little bit of time. However, the cons are, and there's only two, and they're not really properly cons because you decide your own fate with this car. You can kind of think of it like that. So for example, the 3-door, the legroom would be a bit more squeezed and squashed in the back. Now if you know you're gonna carry, I don't know, teenagers or maybe some other people in the back, you're gonna get the 5-door version, which is slightly better. But if you know you're not gonna get it, you may as well have the 3-door. But it's the point being that it's still there, which is why it's kind of a con. And then the other one being the lower power versions aren't for motorway driving. So yes, it's true, they're not really for motorway driving, and they exist, they're there, that's the thing. But if you know you're going to do it, you're going to get a higher powered version. But anyway, that does conclude my review of the Volkswagen Up ! If you guys would like me to review another car, then you can let me know in the comments below and even in the Discord server. But other than that, I will see you guys in next week's video. Peace.